For anyone who's ever considered using maps in their IBM Cognos BI applications, there are a lot of things to consider, like how do I effectively combine BI data with my geographies, and how much effort is required to integrate mapping technology and get the most out of my business intelligence. What's the easiest and most cost-effective way for me to achieve this so I can visualize my key data in any geographical or spatial context? SpotOn Vantage is a solution designed to do exactly these things and a lot more. In this demonstration, we'll show you just how seamless and easy it is to integrate enterprise-scale GIS mapping technology with IBM Cognos Business Intelligence to deliver geospatial BI. By combining IBM Cognos BI, the recognized leader in the business intelligence market, with Esri Maps, the recognized leader in enterprise GIS, SpotOn Vantage brings together two highly complementary enterprise information systems. And this powerful combination delivers a geographic or spatial perspective on your organization's business intelligence information. You'll see data like you've never seen it before. In fact, in this demo, we'll do this using an intuitive drag-and-drop interface. No JavaScript programming, no complex XML or HTML, and no complicated coding at an API level. And in about 10 minutes, we'll have a report that includes a spatially aware map with thematic coloring of sales performance for customers and regions, together with built-in communication from the map to other IBM Cognos report objects, so we can easily see key information for any of those regions or customers. We'll start in IBM Cognos Report Studio, where as you can see we have a relatively straightforward report, including charts for our current year's performance for product lines and product brands, together with a list at the bottom showing revenue performance by state, city, and customer. If I look at the queries associated with the various report objects here, I see nothing very advanced or unusual, just straightforward queries with simple filters. Note particularly the map query, which we'll use later to display Cognos data visually at both the customer and state level. As you can see, this query includes simple coordinates for each customer location, which is all we need to design these kinds of sophisticated geospatial reports. Now if I run this report to preview it, I see that it's nicely formatted and it does give me great information about my regions and my product brands. But notice also the big space I've left here on purpose, because we're going to add a map that's going to allow us to view these customers and performance of any measure we want to see about them thematically. At the state level, I could also do it at the zip level, county level, whatever I want, as well as for individual outlets. To begin the process of geospatial reporting, all I do is locate the Esri Viewer component in my Report Studio toolbox and drag that control onto my report. I can then do the usual things to it I do to any report object, for example setting the size of it so it fits my report exactly. With my report saved, I can very quickly and easily add whatever geospatial aspect to it I need using Vantage Map Studio. Here I see a number of maps for use, as well as several map layers. And adding a map is a simple drag and drop operation, and I can use the preview pane on the right to set an automatic zoom level when the report runs. Having chosen the street map as my map base, and note I could have chosen just as easily a topographical map or a satellite view map, I can now easily add layers to it, for example this state layer. I can add any number of layers to a report, for example to see my data aggregated at a state level, at a zip level, county level, city, whatever level I want. In this case we'll keep things simple and stick to a single state layer, to which we'll connect IBM Cognos data in the next segment. Binding IBM Cognos data to any layer is very straightforward. For my state layer, I simply open the Map Service Settings dialog and click the Join Layer and Define Styles button, which starts a wizard that will guide me through the right choices. Here we see information from two places. The top two fields here display data from the underlying Map Services layers, while the bottom two show my IBM Cognos queries and fields. I'll simply choose which map layer I want to use, in this case the state layer, as well as which map field layer I want to use to join to my Cognos data, in this case the state name. Then I choose the Cognos query and field I want to join to this map layer and field. And that's it. That's all I have to do. My BI information is now connected to a spatially aware map layer. Next, I choose which measures I want to use to thematically color my states. And I'll choose percent of target and revenue. This will let me see at a glance how various regions are performing in terms of planned revenue versus actual revenue. I can optionally preview the data that's returned by the combined BI and map layer query. And now I choose how I want my measures to show up on the map, starting with the measure I want to be the default one. I set the format for the measure, as well as how many intervals I want represented in my visualization. I can easily leverage the defined palettes from IBM Cognos BI, or specify custom formatting for any segment or any measure. Since high percentage of target values are good, I'll symbolize these with green, and then set a series of colors to represent a graduated visualization of this measure, ending with bright red for states where targets were clearly not met. I can symbolize each measure differently, or use this definition for each one. For the other measures, I set the display to currency rather than percentage, and then finish my definition by choosing which fields I want to show up in my tooltips. And finally, I'll choose to zoom to this layer by default, which will cause the map to automatically zoom to the areas for which data exists. I then save this definition and can test my report right from here. And there we have it, a thematically colored map that shows my sales performance at a state level, all done with no coding in just a few minutes. I can quickly and easily focus on the good and the bad, for example looking at those states for which targets have not been met, which are predominantly in the southern region as well as in Alaska. And I can just as quickly see where things are going well, and I see that my Midwestern region is really rocking. Maybe time to get my southern US managers talking to my Midwestern managers to see what's going on there. Unlike static IBM Cognos maps, these enterprise-scale Esri map layers have built-in spatial intelligence with automatic zoom and pan capabilities built in. I can quickly zoom to any region and see performance at a glance for the states in that region. In the next segment, we'll add another layer, this time to see the performance of our individual customers in each state. So this segment is going to look very familiar to you if you've just viewed the adding state layer, because I'm going to use the same kind of drag and drop interface, and I'll add IBM Cognos data points to my visualization. Using a virtually identical wizard, I'll join my BI data to the map again. First, I choose the query that contains data for my customers, along with a field that uniquely identifies those customers. Notice how SpotOn Vantage Map Studio automatically recognizes the latitude and longitude fields as locators for my customer sites. As with my state layer, I can preview the data before I continue to make sure that I'm getting what I expect. Next, I do the same thing for my point layer as I did for my state layer, configure the bands that define performance. In this case, however, I'm defining points, not regions, so I have the option of choosing how to symbolize those points. I can use one of the built-in symbols, like circles, diamonds, triangles, and so on, or I can use my own symbol. In this case, a $sign seems appropriate. I can resize these to any scale. And note that I can use different symbols for each segment here. In this case, I'm using red, yellow, and green $signs. These could just as easily be symbols to represent manufacturing plants, airplanes, public services, whatever it is you wish the map to convey. Now I can choose to define each measure individually, and I'm going to fast forward here in the interest of time. Here I've applied colored triangle and circle symbols to represent my revenue. I'll save this and again run it to test my visualization. And now I see clearly not only performance at the state level, but right down to the individual customer. I use the built-in capabilities to focus instantly on any area of interest, and when I hover over any state or customer, I see the performance at a glance. So there we have it. In just a few minutes, we've defined a fairly sophisticated geospatial report without ever resorting to JavaScript, XML, or HTML. Now, it's a fact that as a report designer, and like most IBM Cognos BI report designers, I know nothing about APIs for custom geospatial rendering. And fortunately, with SpotOn's Vantage Esri Viewer, that's more than okay, because that's exactly how it was designed to be used. In the next segment, we'll start tying the layers and points in our map to other report objects. For example, so we can click a state to see the associated details in our charts and lists. In this final segment, we'll set up interactivity between the map layers we've inserted and the other objects in the report. I'm going to return to my Cognos data points layer in Map Studio and open the panel for broadcast actions. And here I can add several kinds of broadcasts based on user interaction events, like clicks or double clicks, or based on how the user interacts with the EsReviewer toolbar. We'll choose to do the latter, adding a toolbar broadcast. Don't worry if it doesn't quite make sense at this point, because it'll become crystal clear in a few moments. Using the same kind of intuitive point-and-click interface, we choose which query in the report we wish to respond to the broadcast, along with the fields that the broadcast will be based on. Now recall that the report has a couple of state-level charts on the right and a list across the bottom. In this case, we'll broadcast individual customers from the map to the list at the bottom of the report. One last time we'll save this and test our report. And this time, when we run the preview, we see our states and customers' performance as we expect. And as before, we can zoom in to whatever region we want to focus on. This time, however, we have access to a full toolbar from which we can select various areas of our map. Rectangles, radial selections, custom areas, multiple selection areas, and so on. If we use the Sweep Select Rectangle tool to select the sites in one of our problem areas, the list at the bottom of the report automatically updates based on the selected points. Now, this kind of interaction can be set up from the map to report objects, or from the report objects back to the map, as you've seen very quickly and easily. Now just think about how much effort it would take to do that if you were using a tool where you had to code to a custom API. And then think about the other things involved in these kinds of report deployments. Think about the security that you'd have to set up. Think about what if you want to print the report, or what if you want to render it as a PDF. Those are the kinds of details you'd have to worry about for each project, for each report in each project, that SpotOn Vantage EsReviewer looks after for you automatically. And so there you have it. In just a few minutes, we went from a simple IBM Cognos report with charts and a list to a fully spatially aware report with built-in clear visualizations of performance from a geographic perspective, with built-in interactivity between the map visualization and the core business intelligence objects. In this simple demo, we've only scratched the surface of what SpotOn Vantage EsReviewer can do. And as you saw, all of this was achieved without custom coding. All you need to know is how to build IBM Cognos reports in Report Studio. Thanks for taking the time to view our demo of SpotOn Vantage Advanced Spatial Visualization with IBM Cognos Business Intelligence.